My best friend found out about my secret, that I had eternal life and a ton of money. She hired some mystic to send me to hell and steal my charmed life. On a skyscraper rooftop, I was crying my eyes out. Please don't kill me. You can have all my money. I was scared of dying. Really scared. Because my ex from down below had told me when I dumped him that if he ever saw me again, he'd throw me into a boiling pot of oil and slice me into 1,000 pieces. Susan, we've known each other for 10 years. I've always been good to you. Please let me go. You can have all my money. I'm begging you. I was on my knees on the concrete rooftop, so desperate I was practically banging my head on the ground. Susan sneered, lifting my chin with the tip of her stiletto. I don't just want your money. I want your eternal life too. Aren't we best friends? What's yours is mine. If you really care about me, you'll give it all to me. With that, she gave a nod to the mystic in his robe standing beside her. The mystic got the signal, grabbed me by the hair, and dragged me to the edge of the railing. This building was 33 stories high. Down below, right where I was supposed to land, they'd set up some kind of ritual circle. All I had to do was fall and die, and they'd get their wish. I wouldn't even have a chance at reincarnation. Susan wouldn't have to worry about me coming back as a vengeful ghost to haunt her. She was planning to make this final. The cold wind whipped my face as I struggled, trying to pull back. Susan's greed had been pushed to the max the moment she learned my secret. She rushed forward and helped the mystic, kicking me right off the edge. As I fell, the rushing air blurred my senses. Then a loud thud exploded in my ears, and my body splattered into a bloody mess on the pavement. When I came to, I was a soul in the underworld. 2 low-level underworld guards stood beside me, holding thumb-thick soul chains connected to a collar around my neck. A thick fog surrounded everything, but I could clearly hear screams and wails coming from up ahead. I'd been here before. It was the entrance to the gates of hell. I had my damn ex to thank for that. Back when I wanted to leave, he dragged me here, his eyes red with rage, trying to scare me. He never actually threw me in to be tortured, but now it looked like I was about to be completely annihilated right here. I struggled, refusing to move. I was murdered. I didn't do anything wrong. One of the guards, the one with a little mustache, pulled a barbed whip from his belt and struck me hard. The pain seared through my very soul, and I collapsed, unable to even scream. Listen up. I don't care who you are. Now that you're in our hands, you're finished. It was better than being sent straight to hell. I had to take a chance. What if my ex still had some feelings for me? Getting a chance to be reincarnated was better than being wiped from existence. With that thought, my voice trembled. I know you're King Shieni. I need to see him. The 2 guards exchanged a look, and another lash hit my back, so hard this time that a crack appeared in my soul, and I couldn't speak. The mustache guard spat at me. Who do you think you are, saying the king's name like that? I don't know how you found it out, but you better behave if you don't want more of this. Unable to resist, I was dragged along like a dead dog. The other guard who'd been watching sounded a little scared. You think she's telling the truth? What if we get in trouble? The mustached one scoffed. What's there to be afraid of? The old mystic said she's some kind of anomaly, not even listed in the Book of Life and Death. It's normal for a weirdo like her to know the king's name through some trick. Stop being such a coward. The higher-ups won't find out. We took the bribe, so let's get this done. The sooner the better. What else was there to understand? They'd obviously made a deal with Susan's mystic. Underworld guards, pulling a corrupt stunt like this. The moment I saw the gates of hell towering into the clouds, my spirit was seized by an overwhelming, trembling fear. The guards used some kind of magic to slowly open the gates, and my heart sank to the abyss. Suddenly, a voice called out, getting closer. A new one? Has she been through judgment yet? It was the black guard. He knew me. I stared at the figure emerging from the fog, and tried to call out, Black. The instant I made a sound, a guard's hand clamped over my mouth, and he dragged me aside. I watched in a panic as the mustached guard intercepted the black guard. My struggles earned me another solid blow to my lower back. The mustache guard pulled out a pack of cigarettes, all smiles. Hey chief, what brings you here today? Try one of these. Got 'em from the living world. They've got a kick. The black guard brushed some dust off his robes, looking annoyed. Cut the crap. I asked you a question. Did that soul go through judgment? The mustached guard swallowed nervously. Why, yes, she did. Of course. We wouldn't dare break the rules. You and the white lady are always so busy, you should take a break when you can. Have one. The black guard took a cigarette and lit it, saying nothing more. The fog was too thick for him to see my face clearly. I was terrified of losing my chance, so I bit down hard on the hand covering my mouth. The guard yelped and let go. I scrambled towards the black guard but was kicked to the ground. The guard stomped on my face, grinding it into the yellow dirt. I couldn't spit it out, couldn't make a sound. Luckily, the commotion caught the black guard's attention. He took a couple of steps closer. What's going on? The guard I'd bitten retaliated by pressing down harder with his foot, almost crushing my head. Nothing, Chief. This one's just being difficult. They're all scum who end up here. Don't want her to offend your eyes. Hearing this, the black guard stopped. Just be careful. These types were all evil in life. We can't have any mistakes. Get her inside. Watching the black guard turn and disappear into the fog, my heart died with him. The mustache guard finished his brown nosing and rushed over to give me a few kicks. Still not satisfied, he unleashed his fury on me with the whip. Soon there wasn't a single unblemished spot on me. My soul was covered in wounds, completely mangled. When he was done, he grabbed my chin. You bitch. You almost ruined everything. Don't worry, once you're inside, I'll take real good care of you. Like a rag doll, I was thrown into the first circle of hell. This first circle of hell was the punishment of 1,000 needles. As far as the eye could see, there were countless torture racks, each holding a spirit pierced with so many needles they looked like hedgehogs. They wouldn't dissipate here, so their screams were endless. I gasped, using my last bit of strength to force out the words. I really know, Xianyi. If he finds out what you've done to me, he won't let you get away with it. Of course, that was mostly a bluff. Xianyi couldn't care less if I lived or died. He probably really, truly never wanted to see me again. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given me eternal life, leaving me to wander the mortal world, never aging, never dying. He was afraid I'd die and end up back in his underworld, an eyesore to him. Once we were through the gate, the two guards weren't afraid of me causing trouble anymore. The mustache guard patted my cheek condescendingly, his smile wicked. You have quite the imagination, don't you? Read too many trashy romance novels in the living world? You think you're worthy of our king? My head snapped to the side from the force of the pat. After a wave of nausea, I coughed up a mouthful of ethereal energy, and my soul felt a little more transparent. They strapped me to one of the torture racks. The mustache guard grinned cruelly as he brought over the soul-piercing needles used for the torture. Each one was as long as my forearm. You better hang in there. There are 17 more circles of hell waiting for you. We're going to take our time. With that, he took a needle and aimed it right at my thigh. Down here, even the toughest ones learned to soften up for me. The needle tip instantly sank half an inch into my body, and the sharp pain sent tremors through my entire being. Arg. Just then, a figure hurried over. Wait. The needle was pulled out. I caught my breath and forced my eyes open to see who it was. It was the warden of this circle. A guy I remembered named Warden Huang. Back when Xianyi was trying to scare me, he was the one on the side trying to calm him down, saying, Your Majesty, the young mistress is just naive. There's no need to get so angry, you might frighten her. Hope flared up again. I prayed that after all these years, he still remembered me. Warden Huang, it's me, help me. After all the torture, I was exhausted, my voice a raw whisper. But I was sure Warden Huang heard me. He stared, as if trying to place me, and his final look of terror confirmed he'd recognized me. Before I could feel any relief, he quickly looked away and acted like nothing was wrong. We just got a message from the higher-ups. They want to witness this woman's annihilation personally. They're almost here, so just wait. I was stunned. Warden Huang was in on it with Susan and the mystic, too. My hope was crushed again. I let out a bitter laugh. Huanyi. Oh, Huanyi. This is the realm you rule? Your subordinates are running wild, breaking all the rules. It's complete lawlessness. I never thought Susan would actually come here. I didn't know whether to call her bold or a coward. Call her bold for daring to enter the land of the dead. But call her a coward for being so afraid of me coming back to haunt her that she had to see me destroyed with her own eyes just to spend my money in peace. Soon enough, Susan and the mystic arrived. To get here, they had temporarily left their physical bodies behind, and were also in spirit form. At first, Susan was scared, sticking to the mystic like glue. But her confidence grew when she saw how friendly the mystic was with the underworld guards. After all, she was the one paying for all this. She took a needle from a guard and walked up to me excitedly. "Jessica, thank you. If it weren't for you, I'd never have known the joys of being rich. It's true what they say, money makes the world go round. With money, I can even take a tour of the underworld. You've lived long enough. I'll take over for you. Rest in peace, so I can have some peace of mind too." I looked at her numb and asked in a hoarse voice, "Wasn't I good to you?" The question felt pointless as soon as I asked it. If she had a conscience, how could she have plotted something like this? Susan laughed as if she'd heard a joke. "Ha ha ha, you think you were good to me? I was your maid, wearing your hand-me-downs, always in your shadow. You really think that was being good to me?" I didn't argue. It just proved that you can't tame a snake. When I first met her, it was snowing heavily, and she was wearing nothing but a thin shirt. She came from the countryside, her family was poor, and she couldn't find a job at the end of the year. I was the one who took her in. I never needed a maid, I was used to being alone. I only gave her the job because I felt sorry for her. But I always treated her like a friend. I gave her anything she wanted, and I paid her way more than the going rate. Gradually, she stopped seeing herself as a maid and started demanding everything from me. I guess I was too lenient with her. She started to think she could be my equal, or even replace me. My mistake was trusting her with my secret. My silence only fueled her rage. "Nothing to say, huh? You think so too, don't you? You never treated me like a friend." Yusti. She aimed the needle at my heart. It was clear she really wanted me gone, right then and there. The guards nearby seemed to think this was a bit much, but they didn't stop her. More and more ethereal energy seeped from my mouth. My soul was becoming translucent, and my mind was growing hazy. Susan kept stabbing me frantically, especially my face, which she completely ruined. In a daze, I thought I saw Xiani walking toward me. He was still as handsome as ever, more handsome than any man I'd seen in my century of life. His black, cloud-patterned robes symbolized supreme power. His ink-black hair flowed like a waterfall, and his features were sharp and profound, the kind of man you fall for at first sight. Was it a hallucination? It had to be. He never wanted to see me again. But why were all the guards kneeling? "Your Majesty, what brings you here in person?" Warden Huang was panicking, kneeling on the ground and shaking like a leaf. He knew that taking bribes from the living was a major crime, let alone allowing mortals to freely enter and exit the underworld. Now that he'd been caught red-handed, he knew his fate would be grim. The mystic's face paled, and he pulled the still frenzied Susan down to her knees with him. Xianyi's gaze swept over them, full of intimidating power. The eunuch behind him shrieked, "How dare you? If His Majesty hadn't come today, we would never have known you were so audacious as to act so lawlessly." The two guards who had brought me here lowered their heads even further, afraid to even breathe. I tried to speak, but my mind was too foggy, and the sharp pain racking my body prevented any sound from escaping. Would he recognize me? And if he did, what then? Would he save me? Or would he, as he'd threatened, boil me in oil and chop me to pieces? Even if he didn't, my soul was about to dissipate anyway. After a long moment, Xiani finally spoke, his voice like ice. "Warden Huang, I put you in charge of this first circle of hell. Is this how you do your job?" At the sound of his name, Warden Huang started banging his head on the ground faster and harder than I had when I begged Susan for my life. I was wrong, it was those two guards who brought the mortals here. I knew nothing about it. Before you arrived, Your Majesty, I was just about to kick them out. They had all taken the bribe together, but hearing Huang pass the buck, the two junior guards weren't happy. The mustache one shot back, "This is your territory. Mortals showing up here is your failure. How dare you blame us?" Warden Huang gritted his teeth. "You were the ones who came up with this scheme of taking money from the living. I was dragged into it. I finally understood. Xianyi was here because he'd found out his underlings were corrupt. I just happened to be here. At that moment, I felt like a transparent outsider, while the mystic and Susan were at the center of the storm. Watching them turn on each other, Xianyi snorted. Enough. Since the two mortals are here, they don't need to go back. Detain them for judgment. As for you three, you're demoted to the animal realm. You will never be human again. At this verdict, Warden Huang froze, collapsing from his kneeling position onto the ground, his face ashen. The other two guards had the same reaction. It finally dawned on Susan that she wasn't going back to the living world, and she lost it. My life isn't over. Don't you people in the underworld have to follow the rules? She couldn't bear to part with the long life she'd stolen from me, nor my vast fortune. The mystic, terrified of being dragged down with her, scrambled to pull her back. She fearlessly shook him off and stood up. I'm going back. Send me back now. The mystic wouldn't dare use his magic to send her anywhere. He just squeezed his eyes shut and played dead. Susan grabbed the mystic's collar and shook him. What are you waiting for? I gave you $1 million, and this is how you handle things. I said I'm going back now. She didn't know how much Xianyi hated noise. The next second, her body flew through the air like a broken kite. Whether it was karma or not, she landed on a table of torture instruments, her backside getting thoroughly pierced by the soul-piercing needles. Only after feeling it herself did she realize how excruciating it was. Her face contorted in agony, and she wailed uncontrollably. The eunuch waved his hand, and other guards rushed forward, clamping a hand over Susan's mouth and pinning her to the ground. After dealing with them, Xianyi finally looked at me. I could feel his gaze. It was chilling. The eunuch asked for him. Who are you? What's your name? Warden Huang already had one major crime on his record, and didn't want another. Fearing I'd be revealed as an innocent soul railroaded into hell without a proper trial, and terrified Xianyi would recognize me, he quickly interrupted. She's just a newly deceased soul. No one who ends up here is a good person. Don't dirty your eyes, Your Majesty. Xianyi frowned, displeased, and the eunuch snapped. He wasn't asking you. Shut up. I opened my mouth, but only a hissing sound came out. When I didn't respond, the eunuch stepped forward to check my injuries on Xianyi's behalf, then shook his head. Your Majesty, this woman's soul is about to dissipate. Xianyi was a just ruler. He said check her identity. If she doesn't belong here, find a way to heal her. See if she should be returned to the living world or reincarnated. The eunuch immediately sent someone to fetch the Book of Life and Death. While we waited, Susan was still struggling. She was so foolish she didn't grasp the severity of her situation. Her mind consumed with thoughts of returning to the living world and living a life of luxury. Before long, someone brought the Book of Life and Death. The eunuch leaned close to me. What is your name? I used all my strength to squeeze out 2 words. My voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. Jessica. I'd never seen this eunuch before. He must have been new. He heard my answer and began to consult the book. As the seconds ticked by, his expression slowly changed. This can't be right. Xianyi was already losing his patience. He had a very short fuse and was easily angered. A dark look crossed his handsome face. What is it? The eunuch answered, trembling, Your Majesty, this person is not in the Book of Life and Death. Of course I wasn't. This was Xianyi's doing. He was the one who wanted me to wander the mortal world, immortal and undying. Me in the living world, him in the underworld. That way, we would never have to see each other again. Xianyi probably didn't make the connection to me. He likely thought someone had dared to tamper with the records. Enraged, he snatched the book to check it himself. What's her name? The eunuch answered, Jessica. The moment he heard my name, Xianyi's pupils contracted sharply. His gaze locked onto me. In an instant, he teleported in front of me, his long fingers grasping my chin and tilting my head up. He seemed to be trying to get a clear look at my face. But my face had been completely ruined by Susan's soul-piercing needles. His expression was complex, as if he wasn't sure. Is it really you? I nodded. His fingers tightened, his gaze turning grim in a second. Have you forgotten what I told you? Of course I hadn't forgotten. The day he let me go to be reincarnated, he said that if he ever saw me again, he'd throw me into a pot of boiling oil, and slice me into 1,000 pieces. I didn't have the strength to speak, just managed a weak smile at the corner of my lips. I probably wouldn't last long enough for him to do that anyway. Finally, he let me go, his voice cold. Pathetic. And here I thought you'd do so well without me. Turns out you're nothing special after all. Yep, he must have loved seeing me like this. When I left, I didn't look back. Now seeing him again, he was still the high and mighty king. And I was a pathetic, fading ghost. He didn't let me just disappear. He had someone take me away to be treated by a ghost doctor. I figured he wanted to keep me around to torture me slowly. After all, he was the type to hold a grudge. A mighty king being dumped by a woman was, after all, a serious blow to his pride. The healing process was agonizing. I don't know if I was unconscious or just in a daze. It was the first time I realized that ghosts could dream. I dreamed of my past with Xianyi, from when we met and fell in love to when we finally parted ways. He had been traveling in the mortal world back then and came across me, a young girl suffering through hard times. It was an era of poverty, where countless people starved to death. But somehow, I was lucky enough to catch his eye. He watched me grow up. He was my first love, the one who made me a woman. He hid his identity well. It wasn't until I died of an illness and arrived in the underworld that I learned who he was. Back then, he was confident that since we had been husband and wife in the mortal realm, our short life together was over, and now I should stay in the underworld with him. At first, I thought so too. But I was a modern woman. I couldn't accept the old-fashioned rules here. I couldn't accept him having a harem of wives and concubines as the king of the underworld, nor could I accept the way he, from his pinnacle of power, subconsciously treated me as an accessory. I wanted to leave, to be reincarnated, to start the next chapter. He was so angry his eyes turned red as he roared at me, even dragging me to the gates of hell to scare me. I cried hard. I was genuinely terrified. Seeing how scared I was, he finally gave in and let me go. But not before making it clear he never wanted to see me again. At the time, all I could think about was reincarnation. I didn't understand what his words truly meant. It was only after my reincarnation that I realized I still had all my memories from my past life. And once I grew up, I stopped aging. I would never die. He'd found a good family for me, one with an inheritance large enough for me to live on for a very long time. That's when I realized he really meant it when he said he never wanted to see me again. It wasn't just something he'd said in anger. I took him seriously. I lived a lonely life, but I was also afraid of dying. Afraid he would actually throw me into a pot of boiling oil and slice me to pieces. So I lived carefully, terrified of any accident that might send me back to the underworld. I never thought it would end like this. After reliving everything in my dream, I slowly woke up. The surroundings were familiar. It was the king's palace, Xianyi's private domain. The bed I was on was his, still carrying his unique, dark scent. It was a deep, distant aroma, like sun-warmed cedar in winter. I had never smelled it on anyone but him. The familiar scent wrapped around me, giving me a moment of peace. But it didn't last long. It was like Xianyi had a monitor on me. He returned the moment I woke up. I closed my eyes and played dead, but he saw right through it. Stop pretending, you ugly thing. I know you're awake. Okay, fine. He used to be able to stare at my face all night, and now he was calling me ugly. Wait, my face really was ruined. I opened my eyes sheepishly, a bitter smile on my lips. What now? Time to boil me in oil? Not yet. Xianyi pulled me to my feet. The gifts I bestowed upon you, how dare those scumbags covet them? You should see for yourself what happens to them. Seeing the darkness in his eyes, I couldn't help but shiver. So he was going to make an example of them first, then torture me slowly, is that it? In the outer hall, Susan and the mystic were kneeling on the floor, soul chains around their necks. Warden Huang and the 2 guards who'd brought me in were there too. Everyone was present. When Susan saw me, she tried to get up but was kicked back down by a guard. Jessica, what kind of trick did you pull? I still hadn't fully recovered and was very weak. The walk here had been exhausting, and I didn't have the energy to deal with her. Xianyi had a sadistic streak. Perhaps anticipating the fun to come, a slight, wicked smile played on his lips. Jessica, what do you want to do with them? Me. He was the one in charge here. Why was he asking me? It gave me a strange sense of déjà vu. Back when we were an ordinary couple, he used to ask for my opinion on everything, big or small. For a moment, a bitter feeling rose in my heart. You decide. He pulled me into a forceful embrace, his frustration clear. Have you forgotten how you were murdered? They've confessed to everything. It's time for your revenge. Realizing our relationship was unusual, Susan started losing it again. I always knew you were a slut, hitting on any man you saw. I can't believe you're still at it as a ghost. At her words, Xian Yi's expression turned ugly. The well-formed, handsome face became so cold and menacing that it was terrifying to even look at. I knew why he was angry. It wasn't because she insulted me, but because she accused me of hitting on men. Xian Yi was an old-fashioned traditionalist at heart. He believed that once I was with him, I was his for all eternity, soul and body, and no one else could touch me. Luckily, in the 100 years since my reincarnation, I'd never married, afraid of people discovering I didn't age. Otherwise, he might have actually had something to hold against me. Seeing how reckless Susan was, the mystic started bowing frantically, his head hitting the floor like a jackhammer. Your Majesty, I'll never do it again. I was just greedy. This woman tempted me with a huge sum of money, and that's why I committed this crime. It was a moment of weakness. She's the mastermind. Susan lunged and slapped the mystic. You were happy enough to take the money. Now you want me to take all the blame. The eunuch shouted, silence. Do you have any idea who you've harmed? Susan sneered at me. Just some monster who can't age or die. She lived long enough. She had it coming. What's wrong with giving her life and wealth to me? I earned it. I served her for 10 years. I hadn't wanted to argue with her about this, because someone without a heart can never see the good others do for them. But her self-righteousness was unending, and I couldn't hold back any longer. Susan, if you hadn't met me back then, would you have had those 10 good years? If I remember correctly, you told me that if you couldn't earn money, your family was going to force you into an early marriage, right? Trapped in a poor marriage at a young age, a baby always in your arms, your whole life drained away. Susan was speechless for a second, but she quickly found a retort. You took me in, sure, but I worked for it. I laughed, incredulous. Your work? You mean asking me to wash your clothes along with mine, cut fruit for you, or cook for you? You're not meant to be a friend. You're meant to be a workhorse. Give you an inch and you take a mile. Before Susan could say more, the eunuch cut her off sharply. She is the 9th consort of His Majesty, the King. Do you think you can just abuse her? Susan was stunned. She had only seen my immortality and vast wealth. It had never occurred to her to wonder where those things came from. Warden Huang's face was ashen. He had recognized me earlier but probably thought Xian Yi and I were done for good, so he pretended not to know me, letting them harm me, thinking there would be no consequences. Now that everything was out in the open, his fate would be worse than being demoted to the animal realm. I then noticed the black and white guards standing in a corner. They hadn't said a word, and both looked extremely grim. The black guard was the most innocent one in all this, dragged into it for no reason. He had been so close to discovering me. The 2 guards and the mystic were so terrified they collapsed on the floor. I didn't react. I wasn't proud. I was just one of Xian Yi's many consorts. What was there to brag about? I never underestimated Xian Yi's methods. The ones who had harmed me were sent to hell to suffer everything I had suffered. The black guard was also punished with a year of hard labor for his carelessness. I was forced to watch the punishments in hell. In the first circle, Susan was tied to a rack. Thousands of soul-piercing needles were driven into her body, turning her into a human pincushion. The executioners were skilled. They didn't let their souls dissipate, carefully avoiding fatal spots. So their victims only suffered excruciating pain. Now Susan finally felt fear. She cried and begged me. Jessica, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I was just obsessed. I shouldn't have done that to you. I'm not human. I was jealous of you. Jealous that you were prettier than me. Jealous that you had more money than you could ever spend. I didn't want to be like this. It was you who told me you were immortal. Do you have any idea how tempting that is for a normal person? It's not just me. No one could resist that. I looked at her, my face blank. I told you because I trusted you. In 100 years, I never told another soul. Hearing this, Susan suddenly fell silent. I don't know if she finally had a moment of clarity and realized what a monster she had been. She had betrayed my kindness and trust. This punishment was what she deserved. Taking a life was a one-way ticket to hell anyway. And she had conspired with a dark mystic to steal my life force, which was an even greater crime. I knew she would never get out of here. I just didn't expect her to be so fragile. The soul of an evil person was surprisingly brittle. She dissipated in the second circle of hell, burned to nothing in a sea of fire. The mystic lasted the longest. He clearly had some skills, or he wouldn't have been able to transfer my life to Susan. He met his end in the sixth circle, the purgatory of fiends. It was filled with malevolent spirits who could never be reborn, trapped there for who knows how many eons. They were the epitome of evil, and any new soul that entered was torn to shreds. Warden Huang and the other guards died in the fourth circle's boiling oil, fried to a crisp. When it was over, Xianyi turned to me, his gaze intense. You really are fearless. That's why even when I tried to scare you back then, you still insisted on leaving. I lowered my head, embarrassed to show him my ruined face. He knew I'd always prized my appearance. In my 100 years in the mortal world, I dressed exquisitely every day, which was why men flocked to me. That's what Susan meant when she said I hit on men, because those men only had eyes for me and never gave her a second glance. But I did it for my own pleasure and to pass the time, never for anyone else. What's the point of talking about this now? They're dealt with. Is it my turn? Hearing me say that, Xianyi seemed to get angry and stormed off. Wasn't he the one who said he was going to boil me in oil and chop me into 1,000 pieces? His bootlicking eunuch didn't immediately follow him but sighed at me. My lady, are you really this clueless, or are you pretending? I was confused. Clueless about what? The eunuch sighed again. His Majesty never got over you. He couldn't bear to see you go through old age and death again, nor could he stand to see you suffer in poverty. In all your years in the mortal world, did you ever lack for anything? But do you know what His Majesty went through? He dismissed his entire harem. Whenever he had free time, he would go to the mortal world to look for you. He's proud and you're stubborn. You two never once crossed paths. You should know, removing your name from the book of life and death is against the rules. And another thing, your eternal life? He gave you his own immortal lifespan to make that happen. As the eunuch spoke, my heart filled with a storm of emotions. Xianyi, who had walked ahead, saw the eunuch wasn't following and snapped, "Whose dog are you?" The eunuch immediately fell silent and scurried after him. I wandered aimlessly through the underworld, thinking about my future. Xianyi wasn't actually going to kill me, but my physical body in the mortal world was destroyed, smashed to pieces. I definitely couldn't go back. Besides staying here, the only other option was reincarnation. But now I wasn't sure if I even could be reincarnated, or if a love that had been on hold for a century could truly be rekindled. I couldn't deny that Xianyi and I had been happy together in that life, but human memory and feelings have their limits. For the past 100 years, I had been alone. Although my immortality often made me think of him. Was there really any love left? I didn't know. I was completely lost. After who knows how long, I got tired and found a corner to sit and space out. The hem of a black robe appeared before me. It was Xianyi. I looked up at him. He was still as regal as ever, but his expression was like a sad puppy's. What are you thinking about? How to dump me again? I'd never seen him like this before, as if I were some heartless owner who'd abandoned him. I collected myself, looking away from him. Can I still be reincarnated? After all, my name was no longer in the book of life and death. No. Anyone not in the book of life and death can't be reincarnated. The answer was what I expected. That left only one option, staying here. When I didn't say anything, Xianyi's eyes reddened with anger. You have no other choice now. Even so, you still won't choose me? I didn't know what to say. I opened my mouth a few times, but closed it again. I'd angered him again. As he turned to leave, he didn't forget to threaten me. You have one other option. Be a stray ghost in the underworld. Just be careful you don't run into some clueless guard who mistakes you for an escaped fiend and throws you straight into hell. I quickly went after him and grabbed his sleeve. He didn't pull away. I was scared. And I was faking it. That night, he wouldn't leave me alone. Xian-yi was like a starving man, latching on and refusing to let go. I still hadn't fully recovered, and I couldn't handle his intensity. Several times I felt like he was going to tear my soul apart. Whenever I tried to refuse, he had an answer ready. You're the only woman I have now. If you don't give me a child, who will take over for me? It's so boring here. The mortal world is much more interesting. From now on, I'll leave my duties behind and travel the mortal world with you. He successfully rekindled my fond memories of the past. I said, can we go back to the mortal world and be an ordinary couple again? Only then could I feel that it was real, that he loved me, and not the high and mighty king of the underworld. In the heat of the moment, he bit my neck and readily agreed. Yes. I cupped his face, meeting his intoxicating, passion-filled eyes. Didn't you say I couldn't be reincarnated anymore? He flinched slightly, his eyes darting away as he deliberately tried to shatter my composure with his movements. I couldn't think about anything else and let myself sink with him. Later, I gave him brood after brood of children, but eventually, the day came when we could relive our old dream. After returning to the mortal world, Xian-yi's new identity was my childhood sweetheart. We grew up together, and we got married. We watched every sunset of our lives together. He told me that during the 100 years I was away, he had watched all those sunsets with me too. I just never knew he was there. The end.